Welcome to another episode of the PayDestiny podcast. If you have career goals to get a promotion, get a pay raise, and make the most out of any job offer, then you'll love today's guest, who earned multiple promotions at GEICO. But it wasn't until she lost 80 pounds that she gave herself the permission to go after these promotions. Our guest today will share how she overcame her self-perception to level up in her career. I'm Adriana Herrera, your PayDestiny podcast host and founder of PayDestiny, a new software platform to help women and underrepresented professionals access tools to build confidence and skills to get the promotions, pay raises, and reach their career goals. Let me tell you more about our guest today, Elizabeth Santamaria. She is currently a bilingual sales trainer for GEICO. Prior, she was a college recruiter and senior hiring specialist for GEICO. And prior to that, she worked as a sales representative for Verizon and as a freelance Spanish interpreter. Her success at GEICO allowed her to negotiate a 4-day work week where she now uses her Fridays to coach others to lose weight using a healthy lifestyle. Please help me welcome to the PayDestiny podcast, Elizabeth Santamaria. Welcome to PayDestiny podcast, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for having me here, Adriana. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
I'm so excited to dive into your story and help impart some of your experiences to our audience. So everyone is really clear about your lens and your experience. Will you be providing insights as an employer, a decision maker, an employee, or perhaps a hybrid of both?
It's going to be a hybrid because my journey has been that. Everything in my life has been a hybrid. I've always been doing either one or the other or both simultaneously. So interesting.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, definitely. You have a very unique perspective as a senior hiring recruiter and looking for those attributes for people who are going to come in, what type of job offers they're going to get. So I just want to dive right into your experiences. So tell us a little bit just about your very, very first professional job. What was it? What did you do? And what did you earn?
So as a Latina, I love this question because it makes me smile. I started translating for family members and for doctor's appointments, other civic engagements, before I was a teenager. And then I found out later that, that's a paying gig. That's called something interpreting, right?
Wow.
And so I, at some point, did do that role. So that was really good. Actually, I had gone to a vocational high school and got my business certificate. So I'm going to date myself and tell you that I knew how to run a typewriter and I learned Greg's shorthand. Okay. And when I graduated high school, I had no desire to work in an office. So my first professional job was not professional at all. I was a stationery liner. A friend of mine told me they were hiring. It sounded creative and nothing I had done before for a boutique on Madison Avenue, New York. And I took it. It sounded fun. That's what I did.
Awesome. That's so interesting. And so where was it that you went from that job? And did you even, when you applied to that job, did you negotiate your compensation or were you just like, hey, this sounds really cool. I want to do it. And it was just like, hire me and you're in.
Hire me and you're in. But that non-professional job became my first professional job because after a few months in, I was promoted to assistant manager at like 19 years old. Wow. And I, because I had created a tracking system for the company and it increased their productivity by 100%. And so I got a $2 raise that I didn't negotiate, but that was huge, right? Yeah. So I went from making like $280 a week to what, 3 something. That was huge at the time.
Oh my goodness. And then what state were you in?
In New York.
In New York. Okay. And so you're 19 in your first job, you get promoted. Tell me about where you first started thinking about, I want to move up in my career and my, what are my goals and how do I get there?
I had done a lot of freelance work actually in my 20s. I had worked as an interpreter. I had worked for a tax office, real estate, and I wasn't really worried about my career. Thank God for abuelas, right? Because I was just working to travel the world, and I had traveled all over the place, Spain and all
Wow.
these places. I was living in Manhattan. So I wasn't really worried about a career path. And since I'm a creative thinker, I just really enjoy experiences. So I felt like I was in that vibe.
Mhm.
But there was a family friend that approached me and said, you're not getting any younger.
Ah, nice. Thanks, right?
Yeah, gracias. And you should really think about creating a career path so that you can retire. And I took it to heart because I loved him. He was such a great person to our family.
Mhm.
And so after being a little bit annoyed about, my age thing, I went ahead and started looking for work. And they were hiring at the time at Verizon Wireless at their corporate center.
Yeah.
So I applied to get in as a sales agent. And that was my first motivation to start a career.
So, thinking about your creative career and getting into Verizon and sales, you had shared when we spoke previously how you had a passion for helping others, especially the college age students. And you were doing recruiting at the colleges. So, where did you make the jump from Verizon to GEICO?
Yeah. So what happened is that I started my career at Verizon, and one of the things I had, all the jobs I had before Verizon were, I was the big fish in a small pond.
Mm.
So I didn't even think that Verizon would hire me. I didn't even do my hair for the interview. My mom's gonna have a cow when she finds out. But I just showed up. I didn't think they were gonna pick me. And when I get there, they're tripping over me. Like, they want to give me a management role at Verizon. And I told them no, that I needed to start at the bottom all the way up. I had self-limiting beliefs at the time that
Right.
I couldn't do that. And so I told them no. I kept turning them down, and I did the sales career. When I moved from New York to Texas, they were hiring bilingual sales agent, and because of my experience in Verizon at a call center, I felt comfortable applying again at an entry level role, because that was my limiting belief,
Mhm.
that I couldn't apply for something higher, even though I had real estate and office experience and had been an assistant manager. All of that wasn't registering for me. And so I went ahead and applied to GEICO, and I came in as an entry level sales position. And because it's a performance based company, I was promoted several times in the same sales role. So I was given more pay to do the same job, even though I was given more territory to cover.
Wow. So, what were those, now that you've moved up and you're in a much different position and you're helping others achieve goals in their lives? Looking back, what were some of those limiting beliefs that you had where people are offering you management level positions? Most people would be like, yeah, and let me do this. And often, and not to stereotype, but to stereotype based on data, it's the white male men who have this overconfidence despite not having the track record of success, who'd be like, yeah, I'll take that. I don't know how to do it. I'm not qualified to do it, but I'll do it. But yet you had the experience, you had the track record, and you were not allowing yourself to accept what was coming to you.
Yeah, it was that problem of accepting. I had to overcome that, accept what was coming to me. I just felt like, I know I haven't done it at a big company, so it doesn't count.
Uh,
And so that self-limiting belief was not allowing me to accept the opportunities that were coming back. So hindsight, I think, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe I would have been a bigwig at Verizon Wireless and GEICO wouldn't have me, right? Who knows? But definitely that is something that I struggled with at first, not accepting or not articulating or understanding that all of that was transferring into this role. This is what other people were seeing in me, but I didn't see it in myself.
That's amazing how we have this ability to not see ourselves as enough when, in the eyes of others, we are more than enough. And that was being shown to you in the offers that you were getting. So looking now that you made the jump from New York to Texas, you're in a new role, you're exceeding expectations, you're getting what sound to be merit-based promotions. At what point did you say, okay, I'm growing. I have the respect of my colleagues because they're compensating me more, but I want more for myself and I want to start going after those positions. What was that moment for you?
So for me at GEICO, it happened organically. So on the sales floor, I would see that some people were struggling. I'm the type of person, I'm happiest when I help others.
Mhm.
And so if I win, I want us to win. So I would be like team members. If I saw somebody that was struggling, I would help them. And then some people were just not salespeople. They could do the job, but it wasn't, their passion. And then I would talk with them and I would figure out, you know what, you should be like in this department at GEICO. And I love that at GEICO, you are able to try different roles because the promotions are internal. And so I was like, you should totally apply for this job. And then they would get it. And then they would send me an email because I would never see them again, right? They were another part of the company. And they're like, Liz, I love it, And so, at the back of my mind, I thought, if I ever, because I love my sales role, I loved helping my customers, but I said, if I ever decide to move on, it's going to be in HR where I can help people that way. And I had a mentor where I had originally started in my sales career that had moved to HR and we had worked closely together. And so in passing in the elevator, I just told him one day, I said, if I ever get tired of the sales floor, I want to work with you. And he's like, I'm waiting for you.
Oh.
And he said that in a crowded elevator. And I felt a little bit embarrassed because I was just doing a little bit of banter. But at the same time, I was putting myself out there. And, it was really something. But then at the time I had gained a lot of weight. And so I felt a little apprehensive to be in an HR role where you would be meeting people in the lobby and all of that. And so in the sales role, I was able to continue having that conversation over the phone. And so that was something that I had to overcome as well.
Wow. So again, something's coming to you and you're like, oh, and I'm just kind of bantering and, not really sure. You're putting this self-doubt in your mind. How did you overcome that to take that next step? Because you did take that next step. And, I'm not sure if I'm missing some steps here, but there was something that you shared with me where you had moved into a role where, and I don't know if this is with GEICO or perhaps, at another company, where you came to find out some months after exceeding the KPIs and goals of the role that previously there was like 3 or 4 people doing the team as a team, working as a team, doing the role that you were doing as one person and kicking butt. So I want to definitely dive into that. And where does that fit into everything? And when did you finally say, you know what, I am good at what I do. People recognize I'm good. They're waiting for me. I'm going to allow myself to accept what is coming to me based on my track record of success.
So I finally did apply for that role. I was trying to get healthy at the time. So I bought a juicer and, I was trying different things. I just hadn't found it yet, but I was already motivated because I was doing something. And so that allowed me to go ahead and apply for the role. And I got hired to hire salespeople. And I was like, great, I know them.
Right. I was them.
Yeah. So absolutely. And so I got into the role. And then I was, as you mentioned, I was doing a really good job and bringing in, really qualified candidates who were doing really well in the role. And so I got a lot of recognition for it, to the point that someone shared with me that before I gotten into that role, it took 3 or 4 other people to hire the same amount of people that I was hiring because of my expertise in it. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And now hindsight, I think of it, that was an opportunity for me to go ahead and ask for more money or go ahead and do that.
Salaries.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, pay me, GEICO, right? But it didn't click for me at the time because I'm still in this mindset, right? That I'm not there yet. But it did open a door for me to say, I want to be a college recruiter because if I know how to do this, then that means I can represent GEICO at different colleges and universities and speak to deans and different people and put myself in that exposure type of role. So that motivated me even more to continue to work on myself, right? My whole holistically, and to continue to meet my metrics in that current role so that I could be promoted. And then I got the college recruiter role, and it was amazing. I loved it.
So where was this working in parallel with your journey in getting healthy and losing weight? Because you shared earlier that you were kind of hiding behind the phones, essentially. And now you've made the jump to, well, hiding behind the phones, not wanting to go into the lobby. And now you've made to the jump being like, I want to go out to all of the colleges and talk to the deans and be in front of people. That's a huge jump. So, and that seems to be directly correlated, not to your abilities at work, not to your talents, not to your skills, not to your track record of success, but to your self-perception. And I want to dive into that a little bit more, because to me, I know that as women, our self-perception can keep us back from these larger professional opportunities, though they shouldn't. And I think it's important to touch on how those two journeys went together. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So like I said, I had in my sales role, I had won a juicer. So I was trying to find ways to juice and to lose weight. And I would lose a little weight, and it would make me feel encouraged and more positive and confident about my physical appearance. And so I would make sure to dress appropriately when I was hiring, and to look as nice as possible, even at my larger weight. But then I bumped into one of my uncles came to visit, who was still working for Verizon Wireless. He invited me to lunch, and he was, the way he ordered, I was ordering my large, carb loaded meal with fries and whatever. And he's like being so careful about what he's choosing on the menu. And I'm like, are you doing a diet? And he's like, no, I just want to heal my fatty liver. And I was like, what? You're going to heal your fatty liver with how you eat? What are you doing? And so then that conversation got me into what he was doing, which was the healthy version of keto, which 4 years ago, nobody knew what keto. I was like, keto, ¿qué?
I'm still like that.
What are you talking about? And so I did all this research. And so it really, once I started to understand what it was, it actually took me 2 months before I actually did it, because I didn't want to fail at it again. Like I had done so many things.
Yeah.
So I wanted to really be informed about what I was going to do and create like a project or steps of what I was going to do. So once I got there, I started noticing the changes immediately. Like, let's say a month in, I just felt like I had more energy. I was more positive. I was more joyful. And so really stopping the addiction to sugar, like I can tell you day 3, I had headaches. So I planned it for my weekend off. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I did the detox from sugar. I had a horrible headache. And then Monday morning, the clarity, I will never forget that moment.
Wow.
The clarity I felt, the mental focus I had was like, oh, we're about to do this. I felt amazing. And that really motivated me to continue going on and feeling empowered to try new things, to apply for the college position, the college role. And so I kept being, working at getting healthy, and that confidence kept building for me to go ahead and try out for even more challenging roles.
Wow. Do you think if you hadn't gone down that path to get healthy, that you would still be in the same positions that you were previously? Or do you think, you would have eventually made the jump regardless?
I think I feel like there's a direct correlation with my health. I would have stayed on the phones and been very successful because I was good at what I did.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like I was tired of my job, right? I liked being a salesperson. I did it well, but I felt like this allowed me to have more exposure, and each role that I got promoted gave me more exposure within the company. As a college recruiter, they would fly me into DC and to take, so that we could meet on the recruiter goals for the year. And so I had exposure to a lot of higher level executives at GEICO, and, having that interaction and meeting with them, just feeling better, like feeling comfortable in my own skin for the first time in many years did really good for me and really helped me in my career. I feel that it wouldn't have been the same journey for me.
That's amazing. Thinking about your jumps that you've made, now you're a senior recruiter, going to colleges around the country, meeting with executives at recruiting, internal conferences, essentially. Talk to me a little bit about the conversations you've had with your supervisors and managers about your compensation. Have the promotions come to you? And it sounds like they've come to you very naturally. Sounds like you've definitely earned merit-based promotions as well. But share a little bit about how those conversations and those moments in your life have happened, specifically with the idea of maybe someone's listening right now and they're like, I'm ready to start making that jump too. I'm hearing Elizabeth. She's made some healthy lifestyle changes. She started going after the things she wanted, but I don't know how to have those conversations. So share with us what your conversations were like.
Absolutely. I can tell you that when I was in the college role, I was a college recruiter role, which is the one right before where I'm at now. I actually was assigned the hardest goal countrywide.
Wow.
And so I realized, I went and I saw, and I was like, wow, this is a large goal. And so I met the goal, and I actually put an internal goal for myself, because I knew that at GEICO, diversity is really valued. So I wanted not only to meet the hiring goal, but I wanted to have the most diverse group. So that was my own little personal kicker. And so I did that. And I got so many accolades from all the directors, everyone above, what a wonderful, diverse group. And not only that, but I met the goal and exceeded the goal. And so that happened mid-year. And I thought, for the first time, actually, I thought this deserves a mid-year raise, and not waiting for the yearly.
Right.
That I would have waited. I would have waited because I always had. And so I went up to the director and I said, I do want to meet with you. And I put it on her calendar, and she says, sure, Liz, I'll meet with you. And she was we have an open door policy. So I went ahead and I let her know, that this was something that I wanted to discuss. And I went in prepared. I had all my data, all the dates, how I had the information, how it was the hardest goal, and how I had put that personal goal to meet the desired result for the company, because I knew that would be good for GEICO. And she was so gracious to meet with me. And, to my surprise, I got it, and, it's pretty amazing. I felt amazing. I felt amazing to feel brave enough to do it. And even if I didn't get it, right? Because you don't know if your employer is going to agree with it or not.
Right.
The fact that I was courageous enough to ask for the meeting, to be prepared for the meeting, and to be happy with the meeting, regardless of the outcome, really showed me how much I had grown in my role and also personally. And I was really proud of that moment, actually.
Oh, that just gives me chills thinking about that. What was that data that you were bringing in? Because it sounds like you were, not that it was a tenuous environment whatsoever, because it sounded like you had a very warm relationship, an open door policy, but it sounds like you're getting ready to go to court. You have your data, you've got your case information. So what was that data? Because I imagine when you're presenting your work and your wins in that way, it's really hard to argue with. So share with us how did you even think about presenting it? In what format was it presented? Was it just a conversation? You're like, I did this and this. So dive into those details a little bit.
Absolutely. So it was a conversation, but I had my outline and bullet points of the things that I wanted to go over, right? So we have goals and those are given out to the team. And so I came in with the information that I was given and how where I had met not only the basic, not just the average, but how I had gone above and beyond what was expected of me and how that merited a promotion on my behalf because I had earned it. And not only did I give that hard data, but I also came in with testimonials where people had sent me interns. I was hiring interns. Okay. And so how interns had expressed their wonderful experience with me, even those that hadn't gotten hired would send me an email saying, I got my, I just wanted to say it was such a pleasure to meet you. I hope that we have something in the future. So I started making I compiled this stuff, information. I kept it in my folder and I went in with all of it. This is it. Not only did I meet the numbers, but I created a good name for GEICO. It's good for our brand. I represent the brand appropriately, and I feel that this is why I've earned it. So I had more than just hard numbers. I also believe in the power of networking and the creating relationships and creating experiences. And so I made sure that even if someone was not going to get hired because they weren't going to get hired, I wanted that interaction that they had with me to be very positive because that reflects not only on the company, but also on myself. That's my personal boundary and a requirement for myself. And so I just wanted that to be compensated and appreciated.
And very much treat others the way you want to be treated, regardless of the situation, with respect, both professionally and personally. Being able to, I saw a quote somewhere at some point where it's like, the way you make people feel is your business card. Ultimately, it's what people are going to remember. They're not going to necessarily remember the details of each conversation, but that feeling that they got being with Elizabeth, interviewing, they didn't get hired, but you know what? They still like GEICO because they like Elizabeth. And that's a huge thing, especially in the corporate world where you never know where you're going to end up working with someone later on down the road. Always, having that mutual respect and just professional courtesy. Looking at the metrics that you had and the data that you had, it sounds like you both had the quantitative, here's the metrics, here's what I did, here's how I exceeded. And then you had the qualitative, which is very much that to those testimonials and how you're making people feel, keeping that brand positioning for GEICO, thinking about the actual merit-based pay raise. Was it a promotion or a pay raise too?
So that was a pay raise. It wasn't a promotion. It was just a pay raise for me mid-year. Mm-hmm.
Got it. So is that merit-based pay raise based on what you've done? One thing that I think is really important to know is one, GEICO has an emphasis and a value on creating diverse teams. And that's what you were being rewarded for. And I think that's really important just to share, because I think most people want to be a part of a company that is looking for all types of people. So I just want to point that out. But two, thinking about your pay raise and what you had accomplished. So when we're looking at the companies that are most successful on the S&P 500, the companies that are outperforming year after year, that are publicly traded for stockholders, are the companies that are the most diverse. And the data is sharing that it's about 12% or more that companies made up of teams of diverse individuals will make more profit. And basically that's what you were doing. And so it makes absolute sense that not only are they going to reward you for that, but then they're also going to keep their eye on you to move up into another position and to have that flexibility. So tell Tell us more about where you are today with the company, because I know that people must have been like, wait, she was able to negotiate a 4-day work week. What is that? And what is she doing now? So tell us more about how you made the jump from that senior recruiting position into where you are now and what you're doing for the company today.
So now I am the corporate sales trainer for the bilingual agents. So for me at GEICO, that's how I started my role. I started as a bilingual agent, and to now be providing sales tools and guides and calibrations and sales webinars for our bilingual agents is just amazing for me. So I love it. I love the opportunity that I've had. It's a nationwide role. And so I definitely have an impact on, GEICO's bilingual agents all across the country, which is wonderful. And I enjoy it. I love it. And they're always asking me, Liz, what are you doing next? And I'm like, I just got here. I'm like, I just got here. I need to finish this. Like, we need to, what are you doing? So, but they're always asking me, hey, I just got asked this week, what's the future for Liz? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm always surprised by it, right? It's the thing that I'm still working through. It's like I get these opportunities and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? But I love it. It's a wonderful thing. Personally, my goal is to work from anywhere. That's where I am right now. I believe I've always wanted to do that. I love traveling all over the world. I've been to South America, I've been to Europe, and so I love that. And I love the flexibility of that. So that's where I'm headed going in the future. But I really love everything that I've done at GEICO, every opportunity, the mentors and the sponsors that I've earned at GEICO. It's you need to have both.
So tell us the difference between the mentors and the sponsors and how they've had an impact on your career goals.
Yes. So the mentors are wonderful because they work alongside you and they teach you what you need in your current role. But the sponsors are people that are going to help. They're going to talk well about you when you're not present. And so they're going to promote you. They're going to say, Liz is good at that. Like, oh, did you know that Liz was an interpreter before she started at GEICO? So if we need stuff translated, just send it to Liz. And so they're going to promote you or give you that, speak well about you, about your personal brand when you're not around. So you need to have both. And I didn't realize that, but that's what I've had at GEICO from the beginning. I've had mentors and I've had sponsors. And I'm very grateful to them. I keep in touch with them throughout in different departments. So I had a sales mentor and she would speak well of me when I found out later when I was had applied for the hiring role. She spoke well of me to the hiring director and, about my work and how my work ethic and all of that. And I wasn't even on her team anymore.
Wow. But I imagine that's also because of your work ethic and your productivity. The mentor or sponsor isn't going to put their reputation on the line if they can't back up what they're saying. So is that something that is like a formalized program at GEICO, or is it just something that you're like, I need this for myself, and you made it happen?
So GEICO is performance-based. So there are, mechanisms in place for you to reach out. You can go ahead and tell your supervisor what your plans are, and they can, do a path for you. But for me, it's been more organic. In my way, I believe in creating and building and maintaining relationships is very important to me. And so I've always done that from day one. My first sale was in Spanish and the AVP of the department was present and he came and shook my hand. He says, I don't know what you said, young lady, but you keep doing that. And when he retired, I made sure to get him a gift. And whenever he came to the building to visit, like he had already retired, he would come and hug me and say, oh, have they cloned you yet? And people would be like, you know him? And I'm like, yeah, that's Joe. So I think it's a combination of everything. I think that, GEICO has a good structure of it, but I also think that I've been able to leverage it myself with maintaining relationships, networking appropriately, and also having, being a human being. Sometimes people, I hadn't heard from a mentor before in the department. And then I just went and say, how are you one day? And he had been going through something really difficult, his family. And so just taking the time to do things like that, people don't forget when you care.
Right.
It's kind of going back to what you said about, people won't remember what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. I love Maya Angelou. She's amazing. So it's really that. I think it's a combination, and being able to leverage it and having the right structure and the right company is important.
Thinking about the human connection, right? And a lot of our opportunities in life end up coming from connections and networking and relationships that lead to us meeting someone else, that lead us to meeting someone else. And all of those little individual moments and experiences we're having with people are creating that personal brand, how people see us, how people perceive us. And all of that will end up reflecting on these larger moments of getting a pay raise, getting a promotion, because it's not just often a one and done conversation. It's like, okay, I've heard this, I'm hearing you, let me look into it. Then they're going and talking to the manager to say, okay, is she ready for this hiring position? And that's that informal and slightly formal relationship that you had built that now is paying off for you to make that jump. And I think that's one thing so exciting about how we look at our careers, and what I refer to as our pay destiny, is that it just doesn't happen. It's something that, yes, there are moments that are of luck that bring new opportunities, but we have to make them. We have to take charge of that destiny. And your story is so inspiring because you are telling us how you started basically just, behind the phones, happy, excelling behind the phones, but not really comfortable to just be present and visible. And now you're traveling all over the world, all over the country, soon to be all over the world, hopefully, so you can get to that full remote. But tell us a little bit about your role now. Again, I really want to dive into this conversation that you had, where you were able to negotiate a 4-day work week for yourself. So share with us, and I know ears are perking up right now. She has a 4-day work week, what? So share with us how you were able to make that happen for yourself.
So actually, it was really, like I said, at the time, the HR director was very flexible. She wanted us to feel good in our roles. And so she mentioned, what would make me happy, in that role. And I said that I was very focused, and I could schedule my days so that I would come in early and leave, on time. I would have like a 10-hour day, but I wanted to have Fridays off. And so she went ahead and she allowed it. She allowed it. And then there was other people that were able to go ahead and do that. And then when I went on to my role that I am in now, it was just, part of it. And it was part of my compensation package, right? That they allowed me to go ahead and do that, because it's more now at this point in my role, it's more about what I get done than the clocking in hours, right? It's more about what am I producing for my role? How am I impacting, the department? And so it's less about, what hours you're clocking in and out. So it's been that kind of thing. And it tells me that I've been at the right company, because they're willing to work with me on something like that, right? Because it's based on what the needs are, the company needs. Now, if it was a role where, we need you because the customers are waiting, then I know that I wouldn't be able to negotiate that, right? And so you have to know when it's appropriate to negotiate that or not. And so those are the things that you have to take into account and see that. And are you willing to do the work? Because that means that the days that I'm working. I'm working long days, and I've got a lot of things to get done in that span of time. So it's been a blessing. I love it.
That's so cool to hear that such a large company, when I think of GEICO, of course, I think of the gecko.
That's right.
And I think, well, insurance isn't that cool or sexy. And I think of, The Office for some reason, and a non-pleasant working environment. And what you're saying is they wanted you to be happy. How can we make you happy as an employee? That to me is huge, especially for such a large company. I never would have thought I would be hearing you say that. Secondarily, it's how do we make you happy? We're listening to you. Okay, your track record of success says she can get things done. Let's give this a try. You get your 4-hour work week, and now you've opened the door for other team members to also do that. And it's something that's just become something that's an option at such a large company. And so for me, that's really cool to hear. Not just that you sort of paved the path to make that happen, in many regards, but just that even a large company of that, nature, that in like a very old, not really that cool of industry, has these very innovative practices for their employees. So that's really interesting to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a wonderful journey. Again, it's my personal journey, right? So that's been what I've been able to go ahead and do. And so it's been a unique journey for me. But again, all the mentors I've had at GEICO have been there to mentor me and sponsor me. I've had people that have been waiting for me to get to the speed that they've been waiting for me to get to so that I can go ahead and move forward. And it's been a wonderful journey for me. I'm very grateful to my GEICO career.
I love that. Let's jump in now to our PayDestiny game.
Okay.
You have shared with us many different situations and scenarios that you found yourself in, and you found yourself navigating them successfully. And so this is a game of situation and instinct, where you will have 3 minutes. And if you beat the clock, you win the game and you reach your PayDestiny. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 3 scenarios, and all you have to do is very simply tell us how you would handle the scenarios to reach your PayDestiny, whether that's your next promotion or pay raise. Do you have any questions on how the game is played?
So you're going to read out a scenario. I'm just going to tell you what I would do based on instinct. Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll see what my instincts are.
Yes, we will. Okay, so now I'm going to set a clock. And then you win the game if you beat the clock. So let me start. Okay, so you see here, 3 minutes on the clock.
Got it.
I am starting out, and I will do my very best to make it very clear for each scenario. All right, on our marks, get set, and go. Scenario 1, your boss has a history of adding additional tasks and responsibilities to your role that are not in your job description. To be a team player, you complete the task despite them taking an additional 5 hours of uncompensated time and adding that to your weekly schedule. Your coworker has fallen behind and your boss adds several of their job responsibilities to your already very full plate. What do you do?
I would have a conversation. I would go ahead and lay everything out and show them the amount of time that it's taking me for me to complete that. And I would highlight that my coworker is falling behind as well. So that means that there's something that's not equitable in the workload, and that we need more support in order to meet the goals of the company. Because if that person is not being able to handle it, and they're competent because they're my coworker, and I'm not able, and it's taking me an extra amount of time, then there's something that is unbalanced, and we need resources or help. And how can we do that? So even though I've been willing to help out, this is not something that's sustainable, that can continue for a long period of time. We need to nip it in the bud.
Scenario 2, you're in a meeting with 8 other people. The team is trying to problem solve a situation. You offer an idea that your boss acknowledges but moves on from. Within 10 minutes, a colleague repeats your idea and your boss loves it. What do you do?
So at that point, I would need to go back to myself and figure out, why did my boss not get not accept mine? It must mean that I'm not speaking with confidence, that my language needs to improve. So I would go back with that information and get better for the next time.
Scenario 3, last one. You're in a meeting with 5 other people where your coworker is praised by your boss for the work that you did. Your coworker does not correct your boss to let them know you are the one responsible for the work completed. What do you do?
So I would go ahead and speak to my boss privately on that situation and let him know that I'm glad that our team is getting recognition, but it was actually me that worked on that, and that I would appreciate that I get the recognition for the work that I do. But I would have that conversation privately.
Amazing. You beat the clock and have reached your pay destiny.
Well, thank you. That was fun.
Yeah, I feel like I need to add more scenarios because everyone's getting through them so quickly. And it's so interesting to see how different people would handle different scenarios and also some sort of repeat patterns. And, you know, one thing that you brought up that I've seen as a repeat pattern in these scenarios is when it's appropriate to just let things slide in the team environment and then have those private conversations. Because unfortunately, sometimes if we just like raise our hand and we're like, hey, that was me, then you look salty, you look, you know, like the bad one, even though you're the one who did the work. And so thank you for playing that game. Let's think now a little bit about some of the things that you've learned over the course of your career, and what are your top 3 do's and don'ts for getting a promotion and a pay raise?
So the do's, I think that you really have to know yourself well when you're wanting to get a pay raise, right? Because if you're looking for a promotion, do you understand the role that you're wanting to apply to and what it will mean for your life if you apply for that? What are the roles and responsibilities, how that's going to affect your quality of life for reaching out for that? Because sometimes we want the promotion for the wrong reason. We just want the recognition, but maybe not so much the work. So I think you need to really figure that out. So being clear about what your purpose is and what you're going to give that role instead of what you're going to receive from it is the number one thing I would say when it comes to that. Let's see, what else would I say is my must? I would say also I don't want to say don't, what not to do.
Well, we have 3 do's and 3 don'ts, so you can say don't.
I was gonna say don't burn bridges. Like sometimes it can be challenging to work with everyone. Some people have traits or characteristics that don't mesh well with us. Just remember to treat everyone with respect and be, fair. You never know who you're going to work with directly or whom you'll have to lead. So keep that in mind. Also, I would say networking is really important as a do. Make sure that you show personal interest in people and that you really care, because that goes a long way. There's more happiness in giving than receiving. So the more you give of yourself and of your time, you'll get that tenfold. And that's been something that I've experienced in my life personally on a lot of levels. And what would be the other do? For the role that I'm in, I'm really recommending this. And it's something that I told college students a lot. Take a personality assessment. Know what your strengths are. I play to my strengths, and I've been doing that for years instinctively, but now I do it on purpose. So what are my strengths? Because I play to my strengths and I manage my weaknesses, right? So I know what my weaknesses are. I manage to them to make sure they don't go out of control and mess me up. But I play to my strengths. So if I'm a creative thinker, then I look for roles in where I can use that, because then I'm happy. And having joy in everything you do, there's nothing like it. And so that would be my 3 do's. So don't be average. Don't burn bridges. And when work doesn't treat you fairly or equitably, don't stay. Unfortunately, I remember staying somewhere where I should have left. So don't stay. Find an exit plan as soon as possible. But remember, an exit plan is not an exit, drop the mic and go. Because some people are like,
burn the bridge.
Yeah, they just leave, and they don't have a plan. They just left and now they're unemployed. Like, that's not what I mean. I mean, you're not happy. You're not going to get what you need where you are. So create a plan for yourself and get to that place. And then when it's time to say goodbye, remember to say thank you. Because I think that having a grateful spirit, all that does is it helps you in the moment, but it also attracts some more opportunities to you.
I love that. I love what you said about playing to your strengths and managing your weaknesses. And I would say also being aware that we all have weaknesses. We all are human. We can't all be superheroes with superpowers and do everything well. And just being aware of our weaknesses and managing them and finding ways to compensate or perhaps build them up. Surround ourselves with other team members and other really great people who fill in those gaps. I think that's so important. And in many cases, some of us are like, oh, I'm not good at that, so I'm not going to put myself in that position or to do that. I think it's also maybe pushing ourselves a little bit on those weaknesses, building those up, but also being okay with not being amazing at everything, because we're human. We are not superheroes.
Absolutely. Like I would say Excel and me, we are not best friends. I manage Excel. I learn what I need to do with it. There's certain reporting that I've gotten better at, and I don't have any trouble reaching out to somebody on my team and be like, Jose, you are the guru. What am I doing wrong? Like, what do I need help? What do I need to do? And learn. Don't be afraid to learn. I'm learning every day. And that's why I'm able to, like, I gave you 100% today, but I know that even today, even in this conversation, I've learned something, and that's going to make my 100% tomorrow even better. Yeah. So don't be afraid to learn.
And just always be learning, always be curious. I love that. Well, if you ever need help with Excel, I got you, because that's something that I love. The Excel, I'm self-taught engineer, coder, actually ended up going into an engineering camp where I got sponsored by Facebook to be able to go and learn more. And I laugh at myself all the time because I'm not someone who can do math in my head. I'm like, where are my fingers at? Where are my toes at? But you put me in front of an Excel sheet, you give me, my screen to start coding, and I can hammer through numbers like nobody's business. But please don't ask me to do math in my head. But if you need Excel, I gotcha.
I'm going to put you on my short list. I have a couple of people on my short list for Excel. You're on it now.
Yeah, I love Excel. The scripts we can run on it. I'm like, I got you. Awesome. Okay, so thinking about, I have two more questions to ask you. Okay. So now you are excelling as a bilingual trainer at GEICO. You've had multiple positions with the company. Prior to that, you were in sales of Verizon and were being assistant manager early on, in New York. Thinking about all of your experiences and thinking about the first day that you were at your first professional job, what is the one piece of advice that you would go back and give yourself? That one piece where you're like, I wish I knew this then. What would that be?
I would tell myself to accept what was coming to me, to accept the opportunities. I think that, culturally, we have this thing about this work ethic. And I love the fact that I am Hispanic American, because basically I have two cultures. Mm-hmm. And so I feel in Spanish and I think in English. But when I made decisions that come to career, that's a lot, that's emotional. Mm-hmm. And so my emotional part, the Spanish part of me would say, no, you have to start from the bottom. You have to work your way up. That's what I was taught. And so I had this belief that I couldn't just get at a higher level, like it wasn't fair or something. And actually, I feel like, that's a lot of money that I'm not going to have access to, right? Or a lot of opportunities that I may have missed that I just won't know. And so that's what I would tell myself, like if I would go back to when I was 19, like don't run away from a blessing or an opportunity that I attracted. So that I have to accept the ownership. I attracted that because of my work, because of my personality, because of that, and be able to accept it. And so that's what I would go back and tell myself.
I love that. So anyone listening, listen to what Liz would be telling herself back at her younger age based on what she's learned. Tell me a little bit more about that, about how you see that your culture and how you grew up has either helped or hindered your professional growth.
Well, I think everything has pros and cons, right? And so being Hispanic American, I love it because I get to, love, the Spanish food and the Spanish music. And then I'm from New York, so the R&B and and the house music. And so it's a wonderful mesh, right? It's really, I think it's just adds to my level of quality of life, right? But then at the same time, because of it, because there is a struggle, right? When you're a migrant and you come from another place, you're taught to learn. In the Dominican culture is aprende, mija, aprende todo lo que pueda aprender, right? But then don't rock the boat.
Right.
And then it's like, well, I learned this, so I've got to rock the boat because I've learned this. So it's that kind of internal struggle that you have that I'm not sure somebody that only has one culture lives through that, right? Because it's just everything around them is that way. And so I've had to learn about money, right? Because in the Spanish culture, money isn't talked about the same way. Like you don't learn to manage finances or investing. The fact that I have a 401k, and that's like, I'm first generation, right? So that people in my family don't have a 401k, and they don't. So I get all these questions. So I feel like that's the rub, right? It's where the crossroads of it. It's beautiful, it's alegre, it's full of joy and gratitude, and I know that that's where I get all of that from, and I'm so grateful for that. But then when it comes to career minded decisions, that's when the English kicks in. That's when the New York hustle comes in, right? I left a broker when I was doing real estate that was giving me no support. He was taking 55% of my check, and he wasn't helping me. I jumped ship and I went to somebody that was giving me 70-30. Like that was the English part of me, right? So I think that that's where the culture comes into play.
I think the part that you said about the money, because when we're thinking about pay raises and promotions and compensation and job offers, yeah, that's money, but the philosophy and the approach to money and being Latina, and specifically I'm Mexican American, but the family's approach to money, my father grew up very humbly in Juarez, Mexico, and our approach has always been never talk about money because you never know who is going without. And that is something you don't shine, no matter how much you have in your bank account, you're not flashy, you're not showing it off, you're not talking about it, because you never know who's going without. And at the end of the day, it's not what determines your worth or value either, which I found as a person a very strong value. But then in the corporate world, if you're never talking about money, and you're thinking about your paycheck, what you're taking home every day, it's a totally different thing. And for me, when I started my career, I started in the national nonprofit sector. I was grossly underpaid, even for the nonprofit sector. But for me, my mind as a college graduate is you don't talk about money, and they're giving you what they think is fair, even though it wasn't. So to me, that's something that stands out with what you said. But Liz, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the PayDestiny podcast. Before we leave, I want to ask you, what is your next career goal?
Well, I really love my role at GEICO. It's been a wonderful thing. I'm actually working on a passion project though, that started because of my desire to help others. Like I told you, I'm happiest when we win. And so I've been helping people, educating them about the healthy keto plan and how to impact that, because nuestra gente, mi gente, we are leading in this country, unfortunately, on diabetes and obesity. And I want to do whatever I can to change that. And I know that if I speak to la jefas, the ones that cook at home, the ones that make all the decisions, right, we're going to be able to have that ripple effect. And so I've taken it upon myself, especially motivated by COVID, to be honest, to go ahead and get the conversation started and talk to that. So I'm on Instagram as @SpanishKetoCoach, and I'm sharing my tips and information about that. I have my Keto Translate website on that so that people can go in and hear my story, how I learned how to do the healthy keto plan. And I'm doing, webinars so people can meet me and get like a masterclass, and they're free. So that's all going to be on the website real soon. But look me up on Instagram as @SpanishKetoCoach. Soy yo.
We will make sure to have that available. And you're working on, if I understand correctly, a 6-week course that people will eventually be able to access on the healthy keto living diet that you've done?
Yes, actually, I've developed a 6-week course that has live group coaching. And so they get to work with me for 6 weeks. And I am able to go ahead and provide that information. And I've got a method for them, the method for the madness, right? For them to figure it out and to be able to manage it and make that lifestyle something that is joyous. And one of the things that I do is make sure that people play to their strengths while doing it, so that it is a joy to do instead of a chore.
I love that. And I'm not a big promoter of health fads or diets or anything like that, but I will 100% support what she is doing and what she has shared, because she's doing it from a personal perspective of what's worked for her. Liz has gone through her own personal journey, has made the own changes. She did the research for herself, put it to practice, and now she is living this amazingly abundant life for herself. And so please make sure to check out her Instagram and check out the course that she has available, because it might be something that you've been looking for to start making that healthy change in your life, and then also to have that trickle over into your profession to help you get those pay raises and promotions that you deserve. So we'll make sure to include that information and make that accessible to you. Liz, thank you so much for being here on the PayDestiny podcast. Do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
I just want to say thank you to you, Adriana, for making this an audience, for escuchando nuestra voz, for giving a voice to so many people that may have self-limiting beliefs. And basta ya. Es tiempo to move forward. Thank you for inviting me. This has been a pleasure. It's so much fun. And I love the game. That was fun too. So gracias for everything. And I love the fact that you are self-taught and that you have this app to help us. So thank you for making it easy, because we need things that are easy.
Yes, and that's exactly it. Anyone listening to this podcast who is like, oh, Liz took her data and she went into that conversation and she made the case for herself, you can do that 100% for free on PayDestiny.com. So make sure you head over to PayDestiny.com and create your own achievement bank. So that way, when you're getting ready to have your mid-year review or your performance review, you have that all available. Liz, thank you again for being a part of the PayDestiny podcast. And I can't wait to keep on following you on Instagram.
Gracias.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the PayDestiny podcast, where we interviewed Elizabeth Santamaria, a bilingual sales trainer for GEICO. Make sure to head over to PayDestiny.com and enter your email to get notifications of future episodes. There, you can also create your free account to access tools to build your skills and confidence, to get a promotion, get a pay raise, and reach your career goals. I'm Adriana Herrera, your PayDestiny podcast host and founder of PayDestiny. I look forward to having you back here with us next week for another episode. Until then, be well and take care.